This is 11 Light Podcast, episode number 54. And we are talking about understanding the Iran conflict beyond the headlines, That's right? Mm-hmm. And so you remember how I used to do these updates on Facebook and Instagram, and then I sort of fell off for a number of reasons, getting busy and then new positions and things like that. Didn't want to, conflict with work. But I think that this is something that's very, very important for us to talk about, and especially with you, because you are a veteran, right? You have literally been in war and all the things that I'm hearing and us talking about. But before we get into that, right, our last episode was about...
We just been talking about things that people have been sending in, a lot of your ideas through the text line, your comments. We've been asking you to send in your ideas of different topics, and those are what we've been talking about over the last couple of months.
And, we always do a love lifting segment, right? And today we're truly going to lift up our military families that many people, despite what people are talking about, a number of people have lost their lives in this war. Many people have been injured in this war.
Yes.
And, potentially people will be drafted, and it's been decades, literally decades, over 50 years literally, that people have been drafted for war. And that means when we talk about the draft, what is that draft? What is the draft?
So basically is when the military, through the government, through an act of the government, the military has the right to basically demand, and they can put stipulations on the age, they can put stipulations on how many, who, depends on, that could vary based on what the government allows them to do for that draft. But they basically can force people to go to and sign up in the military and go to war. They can literally, when that in normal conditions is an optional voluntary thing.
Right.
That it's involuntary. You're literally commanded, if you meet whatever criteria that they decide that is at that time,
right.
Then that criteria, they make you literally go to war.
Right. So now, if you wanted to enter into the military, you take an exam, whatever branch you going into, you
get to decide what branch you want.
And so I know, having nephews and all that, when they turn 18, they have to fill out paperwork for the draft automatically. If you're a U.S. citizen, male, not female, males above the age of 18 and above, you have to fill out paperwork, right? And that paperwork basically sets the stage to say, like, if we decide that we are going to command you, rather you're a part of the military or not, rather you've been trained or not, you have to go.
Yes. And see, for me, I guess I never had that experience because I did what they call the delayed enlistment program. So I was 16 when I turned 17, when I was a junior in high school. I signed up to go into the military. So I've never had the experience of them asking me or having to fill out forms or anything of that nature, or having to be put in a pool or something like that, because I made a decision, a year before I graduated, that I wanted to, pursue the military as a career. So I, literally, when I graduated 2 weeks after high school, I was in basic training at 17. I turned 18 in basic training.
Wow. Tensions are escalating, right? And so, many people have been really upset about how we even got here, right? It's because one day the president woke up and, Netanyahu, the president of Israel, basically made a decision that they were going to wipe out the entire Iran leadership and take us to war. And so we've been at war almost a month. Was technically a ceasefire, but I went to get gas the other day. in 1 month, I went from paying $60 to fill up my tank to paying $100.
Well, that's the thing when you talk about, the escalation of how the tensions and the gas prices and all of those things. When before we even get to that, when people are hearing the words like airstrikes, missiles, and retaliation, this is not small stuff. Like, this is serious. It's major, and it's causing people a lot of anxiety to encompass on the fact of how it impacts us locally with things like what you're talking about with our gas prices, food prices, everything like that is really, 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 like, for me, when somebody first said, oh, gas prices are high, literally I said to them, because like you said, I went to the gas station maybe a few days prior to them saying that to me, and I was like, no, it's not. I was like, I just pay whatever I normally pay, but then when I went like a week later, it was over $5, and I was like, oh, they tripping.
Yeah, right.
Like, yo,
yeah, and
tripping.
when you drive a luxury car,
I don't get regular gas.
You gotta get premium, right?
Yes, I was tight. I was feeling some type of way.
Right.
Okay, and when you think about the government and what was promised during election time, people oftentimes always go back to, both of us have been elected. We've been out there. We've had to make those promises, if you will, of things that we say, hey, this is what we want to focus on, whether it's public safety, whether it's housing, whether it's education.
Right.
We were told, oh, I'm going to lower your groceries. We're going to lower, all of these things of the cost of living of the economy is going to be better than it's ever been before.
Yeah.
And that is not the case.
That is not what's happening. But I want to ask you really, or talk about something that's, of course, really sensitive, because I have family members that have been in military, every branch, Navy, Air Force, Army, Marines, people that have been first on the ground, that type of stuff. And I have some family members that cannot talk about what they actually experienced in war, in some who literally suffer from post-traumatic stress.
Yes.
Because of the types of things that they had to do and the things that they experienced. And so, coming from a veteran, what is your perspective? Because you really went to war.
Twice. Yeah, I did. And I would say, from my experience, war is not just about strategy, right? It's about people. People are involved. We have over 170,000 U.S. members who are stationed overseas, Europe, the Middle East, Asia. Thousands more are even alerted because of what's going on with this current conflict. Behind every deployment, there's a family trying to stay strong, and we want to let y'all know that we see y'all. And I can tell you, my first deployment, I was 18 going on 19 years old in 91, the Desert Storm. That deployment, and I did 6 months all over different parts of Saudi Arabia, Riyadh, Oman. I was on an island at one point in time for a while called Masera, and near the Arabian Sea. And so that first one for me in 1991, Desert Storm, when I was 18, going on 19 years old, wasn't as difficult as the second one because I was single. I was young. I volunteered to go to see, just to see the world and to do something different. But the second one in 2001 for Operation Enduring Freedom, when I went to Uzbekistan.
That was after 9/11.
This was right after 9/11.
Wow.
That was, it seemed like, I was there for 4 or 5 months. But it seemed like an eternity because I had a wife, I had children, I had responsibilities here at home. I don't think people really understand not only the things that they see. The first time in 91, where I landed in Saudi Arabia, we were supposed to get on a plane to go to another place at the time that night, but we got bumped. We couldn't go. Come to find out, the place that I was supposed to go or would have been in that night got bombed by a Scud missile, and several people died. And I I was saved from that because I
Right.
didn't get on that plane that night. So I've the people that I've seen, and the things that I've seen, because I was in the Air Force. So the Air Force is is bombing. It's a
Yeah.
lot of bombing, and I at the time I was the guy who picked the pilots up, from the aircrafts. And so I would take what they call a sortie. I would pick them up at night, get them up out of their tent, take them to their airplane, get them off and going, and then pick them up when they came back and take them back. So that was the job that I had at the time. So I would hear what they did. And what how many bombs they dropped and who they dropped them on and all this other kind of stuff, and so and then the second time I was in crash fire rescue, I was a fireman, so I responded to a lot of the incidences that happened, if their plane was shot down, et cetera, things of that nature. So yes, it's a big impact it has on people, and we want to encourage people to seek out the support services and things of that nature, because PTSD is real. And we've seen several of a lot of suicides amongst military veterans and their families, and I still think that's the piece that people miss. My wife would tell me that when I was gone the second time, that my son, who was very young at the time, would one of my sons would turn on CNN. He didn't watch no news, but he would turn on CNN and go, "Oh, is Dad on there?" And be looking for me and looking out the window every day. And so I don't think people really understand. It's not just the service members who are deployed, but the families that they leave behind.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And when they come home, I had a family member that committed suicide.
Wow.
Right.
Sorry
that
to
was
hear that.
in the VA hospital. And ended up committing, suicide because of left a young family, and, just could not mentally cope with the things that were happening. And I just think as, a mom, like, literally, his mom, still, it's trauma for her, right? Because she feels like I couldn't save my son. And, she's like, I should have got on a plane when, I should have. But what he was suffering from was what he endured during that time that he was, at war. And I think it just hits different when you're talking about drafting, sending people over that didn't volunteer to do this, that haven't been specially trained to do this, into combat. And, Mother's Day is coming up, and all of the sons and daughters that are impacted, not just because they serve in military, but even the families that are over in the Middle East that are losing loved ones because bombs are dropping on their schools, bombs are dropping on their homes, their livelihood. I remember 9/11 and being in class. I was in law school at the time. A young lady was from the Middle East, and she's like, we're all freaking out because like, we've never had anything like this happen on American soil.
Right.
Like, I mean, we're literally freaking out. And I was at the Capitol because I went to Albany Law School.
Right.
So they literally shut down
Yeah.
the Capitol.
Yeah.
We had to leave. That night, that afternoon when I went to work, they was like, no, you got to leave. Like, this is, you can't be in here because we didn't know, and they didn't know what else was going to happen. And so the next day when we were in class, this young lady was talking about, she's like, listen, this is what I grew up with all my life. Bombs going off, hundreds of feet away from me, seeing my friends and my loved ones getting killed. And so her level of empathy for Americans that was just experiencing this, some for the first time, was just not there. And, we have to think about not just the people that are serving in the military, their families, but also those innocent people that are losing their lives behind us.
The civilians. It's funny that not funny, but it's interesting how you speak of 9/11, because I think everybody could kind of remember where they were during that time. And for me, at the time, I was in the fire department, right? And so, and I'm also in the National Guard at the same time as a fireman as well. So I had just got off of my shift from working that night. My mother called me on the phone, look, turn on TV, see what's going on in the towers and whatever. So when I remember turning the TV on, looking at the news, saw on the first tower, and I cringed because when they said, oh, the firemen, they're so brave, they're going up to it's 50 floors, it's 100 floors. And I remember because I'm a fireman, I said they're gonna die, right? I said they're gonna and then it came down, they passed, and then right after that, I remember telling my wife and sitting my family down. When they came home that day, I hadn't gotten any information, but I remember saying to them, I'm gonna have to leave. I'm already getting ready. Within a month, I was deployed and gone and sent to Uzbekistan at the time, which I had sealed orders, so I couldn't even tell them where I was going. And so
so. Back up for a second.
Yeah.
You literally got orders.
Yes, I was the first city employee deployed overseas during that war, and they couldn't tell nobody because my orders were secret.
And your own wife did not know where you were going, how long you were going to be there, and if she would ever see or talk to you again.
They took me to Buffalo, dropped me off. I couldn't open my orders until I got where I was at. We couldn't open our orders till we got to the airport in front of our CO. We opened our orders, and that's when we found out where we were going. I didn't even know we were going until that point.
How long was it before you were able to talk to her and give her
This is before, remember 9/11, this is before tech, the social media really was popping like that and all of, so only way we had was email, and you could only use email maybe once every 2 weeks. You know what I'm saying? You had access to be able to email somebody. So, and you can make a call, but the time difference was so crazy. You could make a call maybe once a week at best. If you were lucky, you could get a call through, because you had to call the base that you were closest to your home, and then the base had to patch you into the call to your loved one. You know what I'm saying? And so it was a long time. So care packages was everything. Like when you got something in the mail, and I used to get stuff almost like once a week. So when you got something, there were people who didn't, and I would send them stuff. But that was everything. But I want to say this to people. I got my phone so I could find this number. For those veterans who are out there who are in crisis, you can call 988 and select the number 1. 988 and select the number 1, or you can text 838-255 or veteranscrisisline.net. So either or, you can dial a quick number, which is 988, and select the number 1. You can text 838-255, or you can go to veterancrisisline.net. That's for those who may be in crisis, they need help, they need support. There are a ton of resources out there for veterans and or their families.
Yeah. And I just commend you because you still are doing the work, right? And so you came home and you have done hundreds of, dozens of veterans outreach, making sure that veterans get access to their dollars and their monies. You're cutting hair and really still making sure that those people that have literally put their life on the line get the support that they need. And so this is how this touches us, right? And I often think about, and when we went to war this time, I thought about what my classmate was saying, was like, we deal with this all the time. And people really don't understand, how does it touch me?
Yes.
Right?
That's right.
Because you can't, like, we go outside, we're driving around like nothing's happening, right? Like literally on the other side of the world, bombs are being dropped, buildings are falling, people are dying, families are being torn apart, and we are driving around as if nothing is going on.
Yes.
Business as usual.
But there is a cost to us. There's an impact to everyone. Obviously, we talk about the social and emotional and the family impact, but there's a cost of living impact, the economic pressure. You talk about gases, supply chain issues, right? We talk about how much the Iraq War cost Americans $2 trillion.
Wow.
The Afghanistan War, $2.3 trillion.
Wow.
I mean, that's a lot of money when we think about the cost that we're paying
And it doesn't even include long-term health care for veterans or anything of that nature. Like that's just the cost of the war itself, right? And we're already like $1 billion in this war. And, when we think about over 7,000 U.S. service members lost their lives during the 9/11 conflict, right?
Yes.
More than 30,000 veterans lost their lives due to suicide or wartime trauma over the years.
That's why we're talking about this with such seriousness. War is not abstract. It touches real people. So when we talk about solutions, we talk about we got to stay grounded. We got to check on each other. We always talk about that in almost every show. We got to continue to check on each other. We got to create peace, obviously, in our homes and be looking at our loved ones who are deployed and their family members. We got to stay grounded and connected and make sure that we understand that at every conflict at its core, it comes down to people, families, children, and communities.
Every child deserves safety and every family deserves peace. And I think that as a world, we can give it to them. No issue is more, is worth losing this many lives and fighting this kind of battle over. No issue. And we just have to do better.
We do.
And how we can help one another. You've given the hotline number for veterans and their families. You talked also about care packages. So if you know someone in the military, right?
Yes.
Get their address.
Go a long way.
Get their address. Send them a care package. If you know someone whose family member is deployed, reach out to them, check on them, and make sure that you stay connected because this isn't easy. And we don't know when this conflict will end.
That's right. Love and Light Podcast, episode 54, powered by WDKX 103.9. Choose love, choose light. This is the Love and Light. Have a blessed day. God bless you.